right, guys, welcome to part 2 of this conversation. If you've not watched part 1 of this conversation, the church has left the building. Please go back and watch the first part because we're just about to get into the second part. So let's call this The Church Has Left the Building Part 2, just for our continuity on the previous conversation. My name is Maxine Jogona. I'm your buddy, conversational buddy, so I want to welcome you again as we continue to think around the status of the church in these times. And as a deer panteth for water, so my heart longs for you, Jesus. Forever and ever, yes, this heart beats for you. And as a deer panteth for water, so my heart longs for you, Jesus. Forever and ever, yes, this heart beats for you. When you take the picture of a deer panting for water, it is a very sensitive situation, because if the deer is panting for water in the inside and he cannot get to the brook, then the deer cannot survive the harshness of the sun. It is the panting of that water. Just like a deer that goes out seeking for a brook, seeking for that fresh water brook so that it can quench its thirst. It is that kind of a frame, as we see this deer panting for water, that introduces us to this conversation today. Because the same way that the deer is panting for water is the same way that human beings have different yearnings and places that we thirst. This is what we call cravings and desires. And so for every human being that you meet, we are about 7.3 billion people on the planet. Every one of them has their place in their heart. The yearning, there is a yearning of their soul. There is a place, there is a thing that they yearn for. There is a thing that every one of us will thirst for, especially based on the experiences that we have gone through. And so if you have grown up in that broken setup without a close connection with your dad, then the yearning of your life becomes a further hunger. You continue to yearn and say, I wish this was present in my life. So when you meet this lady and you're connecting with her, you realize that further hunger is one of the things that they are yearning for. When you meet your dear brother in the streets, and they have gone through a process of poverty, and for them they're just looking for a state of happiness because of how their life has been disrupted. So we all have these unique experiences, but the commonality, the yearning commonality of every human being is that we all desire to be loved and to love, and we all desire the essence of happiness. Every one of us wants to be loved. Every one of us is also seeking to express love. Those two are important, not just to be loved, but also the opportunity for you to express love. And any human being who does not have the opportunity to be loved or to express their love will always live a frustrated life. That's why breakups and calling it quits are the most difficult moments of a young adult or a teenager, because they are at the climax of their lives where they are learning what love is. And so when someone rejects them or draws them away, the expression of love is curtailed, and they cannot express how they feel to this person. Wanting to be loved and you wanting to love that person is a universal aspect that connects you and me. And so with that understanding, the church that will survive the post-COVID times is a church that will create what I would like to call a love movement. Because we are saying that the church must leave the building from focusing on the physical aspects of building the church to creating what we are calling a love movement. A love movement is where you begin to position yourself as a church, as a family, as a youth worker, as a CEO amongst the people that you're reaching out to, and you realize, how can I position myself in the lives of the people that God has brought my way, to walk alongside them and to help them quench the yearnings of their soul. It is time for us to position ourselves like Jesus Christ at the well, because the Samaritan woman was yearning for the love of a husband, and that's why she surrounded herself with 5 people, because it was the yearning of the soul. And Jesus sits at the well and he begins to tell him, I have the water that will quench your thirst. And so we must follow the pattern of Jesus, where we begin to look at, how can I quench the thirst of my daughter? Do I even know what my daughter is going through this season? What is the yearning of my son? You are a youth leader in church. Do you have an assessment of what the young people in your church are going through? In that company, as a CEO, what are the yearnings of your employees? The church is leaving the building so that we can go back to becoming a love movement. And so, let us now begin to create portals of connections. Let us begin to create catchment places of connection, of love. The end time revival, and I speak this to every church leader who is listening, and I speak to you by the Spirit of the Lord. The end time revival, one of the most powerful end time revival for the church, will be the weapon of love. It shall be the weapon of love. Because it is through love by which you are able to penetrate the chambers of the soul, to be able to go deeper and actually find an accommodation in the hearts of people, because you are connected to them, you care. So love and compassion must come back. Let us fashion our words in kind ways. Let your kindness be a show of love. Let compassion be a show of love. Let giving be a show of love. So love in this sense can come in different forms. To some of us, God is calling us to a place of love through giving. God is calling us to a place of love by stop being selfish and all it being about yourself. God is calling us to a place of love of you going back to the heart of service. God is calling us to the place of love of you actually sacrificing your time so that someone else can come up. These are the different expressions of love. You must be curious, because that is how we are going to create a love movement. Because honestly, the church has left the building. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next episode. God bless.